Thanks for listening to the Lunch and Learn with Dr. Barry, here to help educate, motivate, and put you on the right path to take control of your health through weekly discussions on topics in the medical field, public health arena, and in your community. And now your host, Dr. Barry.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Lunch and Learn with Dr. Barry. I'm your host, Dr. Barry Pierre, your favorite board-certified internist, founder of drbarrypierre.com, as well as the CEO of Pierre Medical Consulting, helping you empower yourself with better health with the #1 podcast for patient advocacy, education, and affirmation. This week, we bring you another amazing guest on the podcast. We have Dr. Nina Loom, who is a hospitalist and chief quality officer at Chai Street Joseph Hospital in London, Kentucky, board-certified family medicine physician. She's also the co-author and best-selling medical anthology, The Chronicles of Women in White Coats, as well as the co-creator and co-author of the Amazon best-selling book, Beyond Challenges, Survival Stories of African Immigrant Physicians. She blogs on theencouragingdoc.com. She writes, she coaches for international medical students and graduates on how to have successful blueprints for their unique pathway into this crazy field we call medicine. She is a creator of also an online course coaching platform for IMGs known as IMG Roadmap. And it's can be seen at imgroadmap.com. And she's a featured health and wellness speaker. Now, guys, this is an amazing episode with a person I've been following along. I actually had the chance to jump on her IMG Roadmap series to talk with IMGs and other medical graduates and people who are getting ready for residency about successful tips on the ERAS application as well as interviews. And I have her on the show today really to kind of give us an interesting perspective on international medical graduates, their path, their struggles, and, why, especially in this day and age, where we're seeing, just the shortage of physicians out there and of people who want to become physicians, right? Why that, there may be a solution kind of on the horizon, but unfortunately, there's a lot of roadblocks in the way. And we're going to talk about some of those roadblocks. We're also going to talk about, her experience with creating her second Amazon best-selling book, Beyond Challenges, Survival Stories of African Immigrant Physicians, what motivated her to drop a second book, and what to expect from her from the rest of the year out. So guys, get ready, of course, for another amazing episode. If you have not done so already, make sure you hit that subscribe button wherever you're listening this to. If it's on YouTube, if it's on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher Radio, Spotify, wherever you're listening to, remember to hit the subscribe button so you'll always be in tune with what's going on here on the Lunch Learn with Dr. Barry. And leave us a 5-star review, especially for my Apple Podcast users. And make sure you tell 10 friends about this amazing episode. Let's get ready for another one here with Dr. Barry. One of the sponsors for the Lunch and Learn Community Podcast is the Lunch and Learn Community Store, where you can find t-shirts, sweatshirts, coffee mugs, stickers, and wristbands with the motto, empower yourself for better health. Remember, 50% of all proceeds will go to the 5-Star Scholarship Foundation, where we give out college scholarships to deserving high school seniors across the country. Thus far, we have given out over 20 deserving scholarships to students across the country. So again, 50% of the proceeds will be blessed to the 5-Star Scholarship Foundation. And today you can get the coupon code LUNCH20. You can get 20% off your purchase, and you support these high school students across the country. Again, the Lunch and Learn Community Store is at shop.drbarrypierre.com, and the coupon code is LUNCH20. All right, Lunch and Learn Community, again, want to thank you for joining us for another amazing podcast. And I have an amazing guest who I've definitely been excited and kind of earmarked to get a chance to talk to you guys for many different fronts. For those in the Lunch and Learn community, especially on my listserv, I actually had the honor of being a guest on her video show that kind of sponsored and talked about, just the tips and tricks, right, of, getting into residency, right? So definitely was excited about that. So again, Dr. Loom, thank you for joining today's podcast on Lunch and Learn with Dr. Barry.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor, actually, to be on your podcast. I enjoy it.
So I did your introduction, but I
I have people who already know they like to skip the main and, kind of get to the meat of the episode. I think they like skipping the commercial. I do a little mini commercials. I think they like skipping the commercial. Tell us in the community kind of a little bit about yourself that I may have missed in the bio, or they may not have would have known, just kind of outside of, what we got in your bio.
Yeah, well, so I'm Nina Loom. I am originally from Cameroon. I currently practice hospital medicine in Kentucky. My background is in family medicine. I'm also in hospital administration as a chief quality officer at a community hospital here in Kentucky. More recently, I guess what's more exciting is that I have my second book out. It's a book collaboration titled Beyond Challenges. And so that makes me a second-time best-selling author, which is pretty surreal. And I also spent some time blogging at theencouragingdoc.com. A lot of my content is focused on foreign medical graduates like myself, because I, not only being an international student when I moved to the States, but I also moved to the Caribbean for medical school. So that makes me sort of a foreign and international graduate. And it's a soft spot in my heart, and I want to share with other people just tips and tricks that I learned along the way. I do enjoy traveling, shopping, do enjoy learning about personal finance and applying that in my life and seeing where that takes me. So that's me in a nutshell.
I love it. And we're definitely going to deep dive in all of your business. I just want to kind of put it out there right now. Because I want to know, and for those who know, especially in the lunch learning community, I always get excited kind of talking to my guests. Sometimes I think I'm more excited in my lunch learning community, just kind of talking, to some of the amazing guests who are doing just so amazing things, and things that, yes, you're a physician, but just outside of being a physician, kind of docs outside the box. Shout out to Dr. Darko, a good friend of mine as well too. I just love kind of highlighting everything that you do. And I want to tell the community, kind of full disclosure, like I've been following you for a while, right? And I kind of knew you, like as I seen, people are sharing you, people are commenting, and people are like, oh, this IMG coach, right? Like that's kind of how you were dubbed. When someone said I should follow you, like the IMG coach, like, no, if you are an IMG and you're trying to get to, where you're at, right? Like that's the person you need to follow.
Yeah.
And as a program director of an internal medicine residency program, and kind of understanding, and I'm pretty sure we probably get a similar, same types of questions kind of over and over again. I was definitely enamored, not only by, what you do, right, as far as coaching, interview, and consulting and everything else, but really as a physician, it's very easy to spot compassion. And that was something that I realized, like, right off the bat, like this was something that you loved doing. It wasn't something that, like, I'm just going to do it because, I got the ability to do it, and, people are going to pay me to do it.
Yeah.
Like, I do it because I actually love doing it. So let's talk a little bit about just kind of where, like, that compassion came from, right? Like, and what kind of made you want to start even doing it? Because again, you could have been a physician, hospitalist, quality, because you could have just did that and been perfectly fine. Right.
Yeah.
But you're kind of stepping outside yourself and say, you know what, I'm going to do extra work because I not only did I get through the door, but I want to hold it open for others behind me.
Yeah. Yeah. A strong point. And I just want to let the Lunch and Learn community know that the interview that you did with me, I'm pretty confident it got the most hits on my blog for several months.
Oh, wow.
Because
okay.
Yes,
I love it.
yes,
Hey, let's look at me. I didn't even pay her. I didn't even pay her to do it.
No, there's no tips involved. But seriously, just being able to give them that perspective from your position of authority as someone that's on the other side, and in more ways, the target audience, right, for a lot of these IMGs, that was invaluable information. I mean, the comments, the reviews I got, the feedback, I mean, a lot of people came back and said that was the best interview in a long time, because it was so packed with good information. And I know people that actually went back and worked in the ERAS applications a little bit differently after our interview. So I just want to put that out there, that you have indirectly impacted my community as well. So we appreciate you for that.
Thank you very much for that. Like I said, and it was something that it's crazy. I felt obligated I had to do it because I saw just how much she loved doing it. And I felt like, you know what, let me try to give it my all because I want to put as much energy and effort that she's doing to help her community out. So again, really, really thank you for the kind words.
Yeah, you're welcome. So back to your question was about the passion. I think, the shoe hurts where, they say, you feel the pain where it fits or whatever. Do you know that adage where,
where the shoe fits, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's sort of my story. It's like, I know where it hurt when I was a student and right before applying into residency. And so I never, at that point in time, I didn't even think about ever doing this because I never told anybody anything. I just kept it to myself. I kept my struggles to myself. I'm one of those weird people who never had a true mentor, which is something that right now I'm like, what was I thinking? Right. And that's why I extend myself so much to other people. But I just did not know that there were so many other people out there, except for those that were in my school, who we were all struggling together, that were dealing with the same challenges that I was facing. And I feel like mine was a little bit different, again, to most IMGs, as most IMGs are actually US citizens that moved to the Caribbean for school temporarily, and then they moved back home. Well, I was a little bit different from that because I'm not a US citizen. I'm a citizen of Cameroon, lived there my whole entire life, studied there right up until undergrad, moved to the Caribbean really for medical education, and then from there transitioned to the States. So it was like being in the States was new for me, for one, and then second, I didn't understand the immigration system at all. So I didn't understand that came with its own challenges. And then you put me again in the US system trying to compete to get into residency and not really understanding the process. I don't know how I did it all, but I didn't have any, delays in getting into residency specifically for me, but it very well could have been the case. And
that's so powerful, Michelin community, because I don't know if you guys understand, just the level of barriers. I hate to call them barriers, but really they are, that are placed in front of many who are trying to get into this profession and have the passion and love, but like it's so many steps that they kind of force them to take just to get here. So I really want you guys to really kind of take a deep dive and understand, like, she had to do all of that, right, to get to where she's at. And while you're doing this, almost like a blur, you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I had to do all that. And when you look back at it. Right.
And I think also, it's important to point out that for a lot of my colleagues whom, like yourself and people that are from here and maybe trained here and didn't have to deal with the other side of those things, it's like, it's almost oblivious. Like you don't believe that it happens until you know somebody personally that's been through it. Yeah. So it's one of those things where, I just want to point that out, that sometimes, a lot of times I talk to my coworkers, they don't really understand the process, but they've seen me walk through it over the last few years. And they're like, oh my God, I can't believe you had to do X, Y, and Z just to practice medicine here. Which for the rest of us, it's usually just pass your boards, apply, get in. But then when you add the layers of visas and different things that come with that, financial constraints, not being able to obtain any kind of financial aid for school and such, those things do add up and they cause a lot of stress on the students, especially the IMGs. So anyhow, based on my personal struggles with primarily just the maneuvering the visa process and then various financial hurdles that I had through that process, and even just the complexity of not understanding ERAS when I went through it, my personal statement was whack. Like, I don't even know how I got into residency sometimes.
You ever look back at it? You ever look back at it? Yes. What was I thinking there?
Yeah, I always joke about that. Like, I don't know who read this thing. I thought it was good. I didn't have anybody proofread it. I just wrote it and submitted it. My ERAS application, I didn't even think to include certain things that were actually work that I've done. When it comes to like educational posters, publication, presentations, I didn't count my own work as solid enough to go on that portion of my application. So, just lots of omissions, lots of mistakes. Gracefully got a few interviews, went around the interview trail, learned on the interview trail too, because my first interview was crazy. And then by the time I got to the second one, it got better and such. But that just being said, it's, lessons I learned the hard way. I just felt like once I became an attending, actually, I had no intention of sharing this ever, but once I became an attending and I was working in rural Kentucky, And I just had some more time on my hands doing the 7 on, 7 off. And I thought, I've always had a blog, but never really opened up about the truth behind who I was on that blog. And I started to blog more about the struggle. And that seemed to resonate with a lot more people. And I started getting emails or, messages asking for more information or advice and tips. And I thought, everybody's on Instagram these days. Let me use that platform to speak a little bit more about the struggle side. And the more I opened up, the more I realized there were more people that identified with that pain point. And that just really helped me get a message out to them.
And what I love is because your story, especially as a physician, isn't unique in that we'll go through a struggle, and just in our level of training, we're not necessarily taught to publicize it. And
Yes.
we're taught to kind of internalize that we're the only ones kind of going through that struggle, which is very epitomized. Like when you started blogging, you were like, oh, wow, like people are actually like gravitating to it. It's because a lot of us are sitting in the back like, oh, wow, I'm going through the same thing. But like, one, I don't want to be like, I'm the only one doing it. Or or like, oh, it's just me. And like, I need to kind of fix myself. So I love just that aspect of understanding that, yes, it's not unique to keep it to yourself, because that's probably been one of our biggest issues, I guess. I like to say as a physician that we don't tell the people behind us, like, hey, this was kind of hard. Right.
Yes.
Like, and I'll tell people all the time, like I've failed multiple levels. There's not a level that I didn't fail at. But I just kept going. But like me telling you I failed hopefully gives you a glimmer of light. So if you do trip, right, like you understand, like it is an end of the world.
Correct. I think in a sense, we're almost preaching a different kind of healing, when we share these stories. It's not necessarily that bedside healing, but it's actually, I think, maybe carries some stronger value. Because if you're able to get one more physician who is well-meaning, intelligent, and able enough to practice, that person's going to touch a lot more lives than you alone could as a physician.
Oh, yeah.
So, I think it's, we're teaching other people how to cope when we do these things by sharing our stories. We're teaching other people how to, in many ways, deal with the diverse challenges that are bound to come. But then more importantly, we're sort of replicating ourselves in the sense that they'll continue to spread the message.
So as you're blogging and you're realizing that you're kind of picking up steam, and now people are kind of reaching out to you, say, hey, I have that question too, or hey, I have a question, could you answer? Was that something kind of in your element? Like, were you used to, being, kind of more public, more out there, or are you, even as we speak, more of the reserved type? Like you'd rather just kind of chill with your own, but because of the platform that you kind of built, you're kind of forced to kind of be out there a little bit more.
So I would definitely say, if people that knew me when I was a younger person would say I was very reserved initially, but I think part of the self-development that has occurred in the last few years, which I think some of it has to do with medical training, it just pushes you out of your comfort zone, period. But beyond that, I have sort of just really transformed into an extroverted human being. But I still believe that there's a great component of me that's introverted, in the sense that I'm extroverted when it comes to certain things, like talking about this IMG struggle right now. I can talk about it all day. But certainly there are other parts of my life that I'm probably still very introverted in. So I think because of the need, I've learned to adapt to meeting the need. But it's been a great process for me. So it doesn't make me uncomfortable necessarily, but I can see where if this was another area of my life, I probably would be uncomfortable with it. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Oh, no, I totally agree. I think I kind of run in that similar ilk, especially when I tell people like, oh, yeah, I got a blog and a podcast and I do video, but I much rather keep to myself. Like they almost can't believe like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, very sure.
Yeah, right. I think people expect it to just be, Dr. Berry that we see on the internet. They don't realize that maybe Dr. Berry has several interests, and there's different parts of Dr. Berry that we don't see on the internet. And so when we see one part, we tend to think that's the person all the time.
I agree.
Yeah, which isn't always true.
So as you're kind of gaining the interest and kind of gaining some of the fanfare, and I guess I guess recognizing, right, that you have something that people want. How was that transition like? Like, was it a simple one, especially over these past couple of years? Especially when you say like, yeah, I have no problem coaching you, or I have no problem. Like what was that transition?
Yeah, I think it started first within me, the transition, I would say. So I had to figure out how to coach people. And, these days you can go, there's so many courses you can take on coaching, right from the comfort of your own room. But for me, I decided to read up more about it. And so I realized the best way to do it is to first look within myself. And so I started reading a lot more, personal self-development books. And that really helped me resonate with sort of a gift that I think I've always had, which is, I believe personally, and I think my family will probably attest to this, that I do have a gift in helping people identify their purpose and their goals. So I just help people streamline things that they want and make it more attainable for them, maybe with some actionable steps that they can take. And so that's something I've always done for my friends and my family, but I never thought of it as something that was a gift or something that I could use on a larger scale platform, like what I'm doing now with coaching people that are international students or graduates of foreign medical schools. And so I think it's just been more of that fine tuning process, which I'm still in a growth process anyhow. So I believe that it's just been more of a growth process. When you figure out, okay, maybe I have a gift here or a talent here, the best thing you can do is sharpen it, make it better, talk to people that are better than you at what you're doing, talk to other coaches, read, material written by coaches that you admire, watch the videos that you can find. There's tons of videos on coaching everywhere on the internet. There's online courses you can take. And so those things just help develop gifts that other people have seen naturally in you. And so that's been really my transformation, has been taking what I've always heard compliments about, like, hey, you're really good at helping people figure stuff out. Or, hey, you're really good with creating new ideas. You're like an idea queen or something. So I've heard those kinds of comments from people that know me on a really personal basis. And so I just took that and sort of ran with it and said, hey, how can I make this better for other people? How can I become an expert at it, or maybe more professional with my approach? And a lot of that has come with just more of what I would call a personal development plan.
I love it. And can you talk about, maybe, especially during this transition, some of the highlights and even lowlights as you've kind of gained traction in what you've been doing?
Yeah, I think so there are a few things. As far as highlights, the highlights are really the people that I get to impact. So, right now I have, people that I've coached that are currently in training. Some are looking into fellowship applications this year. So it makes me feel very fulfilled. And that is when I see people that I actually worked with. There's actually a few that have lived in my house with me. Maybe they came by to an observership and I housed them and walked them through that process, reviewed their application, edited their personal statement, walked them through the interview process and all of that. And now they're looking into like their third year of residency and applying for other things. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you're my first experiment, so to speak. and so that's my highlight is those doctors, and male, female, different countries. And I'm just like, wow, like this is actually something that you can do, Nina. So it's been a good encouraging force for me to watch. Low lights, I would say, have to do with sometimes it gets exhausting, just honestly. Sure. Because when you give a lot of yourself, we always talk about self-care, and sometimes self-care is being still and just kind of minding your own business. But when you give a lot of yourself out to people, you actually spend a lot of emotional energy. And that is something that nobody can award that to you. You kind of just have to recover from it. Like you kind of recuperate and get back up and sort of fill your tank, is what I like to call it. And then you can help more people. Because if your glass is empty, you can't pour onto another person's cup, right?
Very true.
So,
Very true.
so that's sort of been maybe the low lights is those moments where I get like low on fuel and I have to step back and recharge. And that may mean, I don't coach for a season or I, only keep with the people that I have and not take any new people in. Or it may just mean that I call um, my folk fewer times than I usually would, schedule coaching calls with them and such. Or sometimes it may just mean that I take a vacation for a week and unplug and come back. So it just varies, it just varies from time to time. But I would say that's the biggest, I would say the low light. Another thing can be maybe just comparing yourself with other people that are maybe doing different kinds of coaching programs and feeling like maybe you're not that far advanced. And that's just something that comes with what I've realized every great thing, you're going to feel a certain type of way, but you just have to move beyond your feelings and look at the impact that you actually have on individual lives.
Very true. And what I love about it is that to be open, because it's such an active process, right? It's an active process when you're coaching, right? But it's an active process when you're having to kind of withdraw as well. And I'll be honest, Lunch Learning community, I do send a lot of people towards her way because I get it so much, and I'm like, and maybe I feel like that imposter syndrome too. I'm like, well, you know what? As a former medical grad, I got this perfect person for you. Like I kind of know, but like this is the person. Like, so I do send a lot of people your way. So I got but that's me now having to remember, like, oh, I have to be mindful. Like, she is only one person. Right. So I got to be mindful that, we're not draining you too much, because you have such a gift that, and like I said, because when we did our interview, like I saw the comments, right? I was like, wow, like they are really like one, how enamored they were and how attentive they were. You could just tell oh, they were like thinking like really. And I was just like, oh, I was just having a conversation. I'm just glad I was able to give.
Taking notes and like coming back weeks after with notes saying, remember that interview you did with Dr. Pierre? You said such and such and such, and he said such and such and such. Do you think I should do X? And I was like, wait, I don't remember us talking about that. So you have people taking notes. I mean, it's a serious deal. But I just want to put this out there. If anybody's listening and they feel like they wanted to reach out to me, I don't want it to sound like, that they need to be worried about burdening me or anything like that. They can always I respond to emails. Usually in those periods where I unplug, you'll get an email stating I'm taking a break for X 5 days and I'll get back with you whenever I get back. But that's usually how it works. So there's some closed loop communication there.
Oh, nice. Okay. And remember, Lunch Learning community, we're going to make sure, and whoever's listening, we're going to make sure that you have all of her contact information to bombard her, to follow her, to make sure you kind of stay up with her, because again, she's definitely one. Like I said, I'm all over. I'm watching her stories. I'm watching because I want to see not only how she's doing it, but again, if there's something where I can improve on myself in just the position I am, I definitely will take nuggets as well. So you talked about being not just a one-time best-selling author, but a two-time best-selling author. And obviously, I want to get into Beyond Challenges, but like talk about the first time, right? When you decided like, hey, you know what? I'm going to write something. Like what was that? Like, were you always, and I always ask, especially for people who write books, like was that something that was like, yeah, I'm going to write a book one day, and the opportunity came, or it was just kind of like with all of the life changes that were happening, it just felt right?
Yeah. So the first time was when I partnered with a group of other female physicians, and we wrote the Chronicles of Women in White Coats, which has, ever since moved into a great movement. And I mean, there's been a wellness retreat, a blog, and so many things birthed out of it that have continued to encourage women in medicine across the country. But then more recently, this was something that I was a part of the organizing team of, and sort of, a co-leader in the project. And that really was something that was near and dear to my heart, because this one was really focused on the struggles that immigrants face, and particularly immigrant physicians, just detailing accounts of their lives from different facets of just general life, love, the practice of medicine, and how that has maybe made us better, or the challenges that we encountered along the way have made us much better or thankful for who we are today. And so that is the project that was just recently released this oh wow, this month. We launched this month actually,
Yep.
October 4th. And within the first day of releasing on Amazon, we made the bestseller list. And
Amazing.
I actually almost passed out when I saw that we were right below the book written by the neurosurgeon, When Breath Becomes Air. Like he was like we were
Oh,
right
wow.
underneath of him. And I was like, oh my God, I took a screenshot of it because I could not believe it. And for several days after, we stayed on the number one new releases in medical biographies. So that was a pretty good win for us, just because our stories are different, but they're the same as everybody else's. So even though it may feel like, oh my gosh, this is a book about, immigrant docs. I'm not an immigrant. I may not relate with them. You'll be surprised because even though it feels like the origin of a story is vary from yours, but the struggles are going to be underlying very similar. And it really boils down to, what virtue did this person gain from that experience that I can maybe, reflect on. And that's really kind of, that's been a joyous experience, I would say.
And it's been amazing. And Lunch Learning Community, where we're obviously, I want to give, Dr. Loom's community an opportunity to get a free book on us, right? So we're definitely gonna make sure we're saying it out in the air. We're gonna sponsor so she can give a book away on us because I think you need to read this. But like I said, again, I've been like a secret spy on everything you do. And I think even I, as a person who always wanted to, I've always wanted to do academic medicine, right? That was always my passion. I remember writing when I was a medical student. I was either a medical student or like maybe a first year resident and talking about like, oh, I can't wait to be a program director, right? Because that was just something that I've always wanted to do.
Oh, wow, that's awesome.
And still understanding and learning as I grow in this role that I've been on like 3 years now. Just a different side of it. As an osteopathic physician, we didn't typically deal with international medical graduates. So I'm learning all of these things. I'm like, wow, like you guys have to deal with all of that. So that's why. And when I say that, I say it especially for the medical students who, maybe are, going to school here, right? And they think like, no, we don't go through that same struggle. And you'd be surprised. Like you'd be surprised the questions I get, the DMs I get, the emails I get, kind of going through that same like hurdles and trouble and like, how do I get over this? Because I get those same questions for students who go here too. So I 100% agree, that everyone should read this. One, because it definitely opens up your heart, right? And your eyes, right? But especially your heart to say like, oh, okay, like I definitely need to make sure I'm more mindful of the struggle that everyone has to go through. And then it kind of makes I want to say it. I'll say it online. I'll say it on live right here. Like I kind of respect it more, right? Because I know your hurdle is a little bit harder than someone like even like me, right? Who went to school here, who's from here, who went to osteopathic medical. So I understand that even my hurdle wasn't the type of hurdle that you typically have to deal with. So I'm definitely a fan of that book and really that premise that you women got together and say like, no, let's write our story, because it even though you said 28, is that how many? I'm sorry, how many? What the?
We had 15.
Oh, sorry, yeah, I don't know where I got. So 15 different stories, but it's still one collective theme. Like, hey, like we struggled, but we got to where we needed to be. Right.
And that's the message we're trying to put across is, I usually say this jokingly, but, a lot of times when you move to America from another country, you don't have the same opportunity as a person where this is their homeland. And so, when we choose to share our stories, it's also a way to say that despite the fact that we maybe did not have the opportunity to get some added advantage, we still were able to overcome X and Y challenges in our lives to get to our goal. Just like you said, always wanting to be a program director. And I was thinking, oh my God, here you are walking in your goal today. So a lot of times we have all these goals we set for ourselves, but maybe along the way you get a detour or, encounter some kind of roadblock, remembering that even people that maybe could have been statistically considered less fortunate than you are still able to get their goals means, if anything, that you can certainly get yours, and so that's really, the message of encouragement or empowerment that we're putting out there is, irrespective of what origins you have or irrespective of your disadvantages, and if you have advantages, do take advantage of them. And so that way our stories are able to resonate with more than just immigrants, but even just people that are non-immigrants or people to whom this is home, to not only share that story for awareness, but also to remind them that, hey, yes, you could still also achieve a lot of the other things you want to do for yourself, given that you have certain advantages.
So, I always ask, after you come together and you write a phenomenal story, a collection of stories like this, like what is next, right? Like when we talk about just kind of getting the message out there, and we already know what you're doing on the personal front, like what's next for you?
So, oh my gosh, I have so many plans, Dr. Pierre. I mean, like, I don't even know sometimes how I go to sleep at night with all these plans in my head. But I have a dream of creating some more structure around international medical graduates and their pre-residency process. Because the biggest thing that I've noticed, I guess, if I could create a study, right, this would be my my retrospective analysis of the IMGs I've worked with. The foundation is lack of knowledge. That's just what it is, and it's not a lack of medical knowledge, because actually these IMGs tend to score way higher on some of their boards than maybe even students that I've taught, as part of my job here in the States. In the past, for the first 3 years out of residency, I was a community-based preceptor for an osteopathic school out of Tennessee. So I do know that, scores can vary, but these IMGs tend to really knock that ball out of the park when it comes to some, not all, of course, but. So that being said, medical knowledge I've noticed maybe is not so much of an issue, even though when it is an issue, that's a usually more difficult hurdle to overcome because you need to have the competitive score. But that put aside, just understanding of the process has been an area where I've seen the biggest gap. And so one of the things I've done is, created an online course geared towards this, but I'm looking at a more structured and casual approach, if that makes any sense. So maybe something like what you're doing, I don't know yet. Maybe something like a podcast or an annual meeting or something that could really equip people one time. Here's all the information you need, beyond just maybe a static online course, which I do enjoy and I do have, and people use it. But beyond just that course, I would like something more dynamic, where there's more interaction. And more real time. So whatever that is, I'm yet to discover. I'm yet to find out. Who knows? Maybe someday it would be. My dream would be if, the Educational Commission for Medical Graduates, if I can get to work with them in some capacity in the future. That's definitely would be a big thing for me if that ever happened. So I think for now, that's really what I'm looking at is a more standardized platform that would equip IMGs with necessary information, evidence-based information that would really help them be well armed on the front end instead of, reaching out to me when they fail to match one time, because then that just makes it's a snowball effect. Yeah. But, if they can get that information earlier on. And really, I like to emphasize this. My message is not for people to go to foreign medical schools. That's not my message. My message is for people who've already found themselves enrolled in those schools to improve their options and their chances of making their dream of being a board certified physician in the States. So it's really not a message of telling people to go to foreign schools, because I would not do it over again if I had the choice. But it's really
is that just because of the hurdles that are kind of empirically placed? Okay.
Yes, the challenges that I faced, which I did not anticipate because I didn't know any better. I'd never lived in America before to understand the medical system to that extent. Hindsight is 2020. You can't see that far ahead, especially when you're just ignorant to societal standards. But that being said, it's never my intention to say a pre-med student listening to this should go to Caribbean. That's not the message. The message really is this, that if you already are in that predicament, here's what you need to be focused on, because maybe your school may not equip you, especially when you start your clinical years, with exactly that piece of information. But then there's people like myself who are developing these resources to help meet that need.
I love it. And it's so interesting because that was like the biggest driver for me. And I've said it before, like I said, when I talk about compassion, I usually I don't use it loosely, because when I see people who have such a drive, like I just generally want to help them, right? Like I generally want to see them succeed. I remember going to school at Nova Southeastern, and I remember thinking like, okay, who's on the admissions committee? Because now that I'm at the door, I need to see like what they saw in me and what do I need to do to tell someone behind me. And
Right.
that's probably been secretly my drive to become a program director, right? Because I'm like, all right, now that I'm in residency, like, all right, what are people on the other side looking at for potential resident applicants to get into their program? And I remember when I did my webinar, right? Because I have a webinar as well too, the ERAS interview webinar. Like I had that, and the reason why I did it was because like I saw so many people, and you're so right, making the same mistakes over and over again, that I knew it was just that they just didn't know, right? Like it wasn't like they weren't trying. Like it was just that they just did not know like this process. Correct. And I figured like, hey, like if I just yell out and scream like, hey, by the way, like put down your poster presentation. Like if like, hey, by the way, like if I knew if I just yelled and screamed that someone would take it and say, oh, you know what? I did do a lot of poster presentations, or I did a lot of oral presentations. Maybe I should put that in the scholarly activity, right? So my ERAS section doesn't look blank. I mean, the amount of students who don't even know what goes into ERAS is like still mind-boggling to me. But like again, I was naive as well too. I didn't know. And I didn't know until I got to the other side, and I had to actually put stuff into the ERAS and realize, oh wow, like all the stuff I remember doing, like I don't remember doing it. I didn't write it down. So I would 100% agree. Like it's never, and especially because you're 100% right. It's not, the scores are usually not the issue. I wish I could be like, oh yes, the scores that keep them out. But there's so many systems in our medical society that, again, I've talked about this before ad nauseum, that keep our foreign medical graduates try to keep our foreign medical graduates outside of the system. Like there's just, and I'm in internal medicine, right? So you already know it. Like I think as if I had to pick a specialty that does an amazing job at trying to keep people out, it's internal medicine. And so I understand that there are systems in place that purposely make it harder for you. And that's why I love everything that you do. And that's why, again, like I said, whatever your dream, whenever your dream comes to fruition, if you ever need some support, please let me know. Because I know that there's barriers that we have to artificially break down to make it easier for those who are in that predicament to get over here and learn and be able to take care of patients. Because really, that's really the end of the day. We're trying to take care of patients, right? And you got these structures here that don't even let you do that, right? You got people here who do amazing work, amazing clinical work, do amazing grades, but because of where they went to school, or maybe they had a hiccup, right? And like I said, full disclosure, there's not a level that I have not failed at. Right. So full disclosure is not a level I've failed at. So like just understanding that, like, and understanding I'm still a program director. I am 35 years old. I always forget how old I am. I'm 35 years old. Maybe I'm 36. Am I 36? I think I'm 36. I'm 35, 36. Like, but I'm still a program director. Right. And I've had plenty of missteps and fails. So I've never believed that a misstep or fail anywhere during a medical school career should like dictate whether you have a career at all. So again, I am 100% champion of, what you do and really how you do it. And I think that's why, that's why I was so excited for just to have this kind of discussion, because one, I think we're opening up a lot of people's ears who probably don't realize, right? Like a lot of these outside forces that affect our international medical graduates, to the point where they probably, for them, we're DOs and MDs. That's all they know. They don't know our struggle, and they need more people like you, like saying like, hey, like, look, like, read this book. This is our collection of struggles, just so you realize like, hey, yeah, it wasn't all, straight A's and, high, like it wasn't all that. So before I let you go, if you can, again, just kind of, I know we're about your self-care, right? But I do want people to make sure that they can kind of follow you. You're always doing now. Again, let me Lunch Learning Community. Let me brag on her a little bit. She is always doing live. Now, my ERAS is an automated webinar. Reason why is because I don't be having the time to like do that like very often. So it's just, you can go click, it already press play. Like you press play, it's already pre-recorded, like it's done, right? But she does it live multiple times. I know she just went through a session where she was doing interviews. I'm not sure if you're still doing that. But I want people to kind of follow you, just to kind of just see how you're doing and kind of see how they can, kind of stay within your community. Like where are you at social wise, website wise, all of that stuff here. And then remember, Lunch and Learn Community, whether you're driving, taking a shot, whatever you're doing, listen to it. We'll make sure this is all in the show notes as well.
Yeah, thank you for that. So I think Instagram, it's sort of my most active social platform, and I'm at Dr. Nina Loom. Previously, I was known as the Encouraging Doc on Instagram, and I'm still the Encouraging Doc, but my handle is at Dr. Nina Loom. So that's just DrNinalum. And my blog is theencouragingdoc.com. So those are two places where people can find me on the internet. My online courses are on imgroadmap.com, which you can also find through my blog as well. And I think those are the only places where I exist right now.
Sure. Well, what about the book, baby?
Oh, yes. I forgot. Okay, yes. So you can get the book on my Square site. It's also included on my Instagram bio page, but it's also available on Amazon. And it's titled Beyond Challenges, Survival Stories from African Immigrant Physicians on Love, Life, and the Practice of Medicine.
Perfect. And remember, Lunch and Learn Community listeners, and especially those in your community, we want to give away on behalf of us one of your paperback books. So I don't know however best you feel, either through your email list or your website, whatever way you feel, let us know, because we want to sponsor one to give away, because it is a message that I think people need to be have in hand, so they can kind of understand, like, okay, I really need to respect the grind that some of these amazing physicians are doing down here.
Absolutely. I would love to do that. So we can probably figure out the rules of the giveaway, and maybe use one of our social platforms to further announce that. But I'm down. I can mail a book to that person directly, whoever wins that giveaway.
Yeah, let's give them a paper. I mean, let's give them paperback. I mean, I know people are digital these days, but let's give them the hard copy book.
Right, and that way it can get signed before.
Oh, even better. See, we got to give them the paper. Give them the paperback, because we got to get that signed.
Absolutely, we'd love to do that.
So again, thank you for joining Lunch and Learn Community. This has been an absolutely amazing episode, and we just want to support you and thank you and give you all the well wishes on such an amazing journey. Like I said, to me, you are the IMG coach. I'm gonna keep sending people to you, especially when I can't. I'm too busy. Especially because this is, as program director, this is interview season, so it's very busy.
Right. Oh my God, I'm sure you're slammed. Oh, I can't imagine. Yeah, that's one thing I can't imagine how you do it.
Oh, honestly. Yes. Crazy. It's crazy. You have a great day, and thank you for everything that you do.
All right. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. And to all the Lunch and Learn community folk, it was great spending some time with you today.
Thank you for getting to the end of the show. I am your host, Dr. Barry Pierre, host of the Lunch Learn with Dr. Barry, and this is another amazing episode that we like to bring to you week after week on betterment of empowering yourself for better health today. If you have not had a chance, please go ahead and subscribe to the show. If this is your first time listening, if you already listen and you've already subscribed, make sure to leave me a 5-star review because your support is absolutely important in keeping the show moving as it is. And if you have not had a chance and you want to check out today's show notes, always head over to lunchlearnpod.com. That is lunchlearnpod, all in one word, .com, and you can get the access to my show notes for every single episode, but especially the one you just listened to. And I'm going to see you guys next week. You guys be blessed. Bye.